Thursday, July 10th. Welcome back to Damon Bruce Plus. Also, welcome back to Sam Betesh at Thinking Out Loud. We're co-streaming on both channels today. It's a Thursday tradition unlike any other. Sammy, good to see you, brother. How are you?
It's so good to see you. I can't wait until we talk about Ike's sandwiches because I enjoyed a Damon Bruce Ike's sandwich for the 4th of July. We are going to get to Brock Purdy. Has anyone defended Brock Purdy more than maybe his parents? I swear, we should be invited to Thanksgiving at this point. If Brock Purdy's in the news, you and I are talking about it, and we are spinning it towards the positive. We are those guys.
But it's not like we're just cheerleading homers.
No.
Not at all. I mean, it's like there's a huge fracture in between who understands what they're looking at and who doesn't understand what they're looking at. But since you already brought it up, I mean, let's just jump right into the fact
Can we please?
If you're looking for a delicious sandwich and you're looking for one this afternoon, look no further than Ike's. And boy, I hope you live around one or he's opening one near you soon enough. Everybody in San Francisco knows about Ike's. Everybody in California, the West Coast, it is growing. And I'm telling you, it's the summertime. You want a big, drippy, messy, yummy barbecue sandwich. He's got all sorts of options. His golden barbecue sauce is the right way to go. Forget about just red barbecue sauce. The yellow golden barbecue sauce that he has, I get it on the Jamie Sirewich. You're going to want to check that out. You're going to want to check out Ike's sandwiches, my good friends. Thank you so very much.
And before you move on, I just want to say the Damon Bruce sandwich, I got to tell you, there's not a ton of sandwiches in the world that are advertised with the onion ring on there. And Damon, I don't know how you and I came up with that, but what a beautiful, first of all, the onion ring, I will say if we were doing the hierarchy of sides, onion ring should come out on top every time. Forget about it, in my opinion. I just think an onion ring is so superior to everything else you can get. Great French fries are great, but an onion ring really does take it to another level. And on that sandwich, excellent. And by the way, instead of Dutch Crunch, I went French roll. I was just so pleased. I was so pleased with what I had. Of everything I did on the 4th of July, I might remember this moment most, which I saved it for the end of the day, by the way. It also kept very well, Damon. I bought this thing at noon and ate it at 9 p.m. and it was outstanding.
Because I would say you want to get to it right away because sometimes the actual onion ring can get a little soggy.
I re-crisped, admittedly, the only thing I did, I re-crisped the rings in the toaster
in the air fryer.
Crushed it. Oh, it was beautiful. Really beautiful, beautiful move. Yeah.
Ike sandwiches, don't just take my word for it. As a fat boy, look at Sam. Sam actually tries to take care of himself. He still likes Ike sandwiches. And get yourself one as soon as you can. Sign up for that Love Rewards program. Again, the word of mouth advertising is best advertising. Forget what I'm telling you. Listen to Sammy. By the way, the Dubliner and West portal is where I want to run into you soon. I love the Dubliner West portal. You will love the Dubliner West portal. As soon as you walk in there, it's the perfect bar. Everything's right about it. Other bars wish they were the Dubliner and West portal. What's special about it? The answer is nothing. It's just a great bar. It ain't trying. And you can get anything you want ever delivered to you at the Dubliner. You eat it right there at the bar. Good friends, good people, good conversation, good lighting, good volume, all the things that you want in a bar you get at the Dubliner West Portal, including a Muni line pickup right in front. I mean, the K, the L, the M line, I think all go right past the Dubliner. So what more do you want then? I'll tell you the bar to go to. I'll give you a ride there and back. That's how easy that is. And thank you so much. Sammy, any business to be done on your end before we hop into the fact that we got ourselves a quarterback who would rather win 1 Super Bowl than 3. I can't believe we haven't found the controversy in that yet. It'll come.
It will come. By the way, so at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam, that's why you're checking us out today on both channels. You've got Damon Bruce Plus, and then you've got at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. You can catch me and Andrew Siciliano. We do our podcast, Thinking Out Loud. You can catch that on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and of course, all the content lands right here on the YouTube page at Thinking Out Loud, Siciliano and Sam. Check us out there as well, and thank you very much for checking me and Damon out on Thursdays.
By the way, the Damon Bruce Ike sandwich sounds very salty. No, the broadcaster's salty. The sandwich is very well balanced. I can tell you that, Steve.
And remember, there's a steak sauce there as well with it, which is trending towards sweet. That the steak sauce, for those that are sort of thinking you're sort of A1 vinegary, no, there's sort of a sweetness there that adds. And of course, the onion ring also adds a subtle sweetness as well. The sandwich, is outstanding. That's all I got to say. Take my word for it. And everyone, here's what I like to say. I don't like saying best sandwich because that gets people really terrified about things they had in their childhood. Here's what I tell people. This sandwich, and of course Ike's, is worthy of your opinion. It should be on a list somewhere. You should have an opinion because you will end up in a conversation where somebody is telling you that Ike's is the best and you're going to want to have your opinion.
I'm telling you, Ike's is going to want to sign you up for a sponsor before it's all said and done. JP from the 510 says, man, I love Thursdays. Damon and Sammy. I love them too. What does Damon pair best with? Well, Sam Betesh or Larry Krueger. Nice. It's pretty much the way it goes. Anyways, let's just hop into the fact that this week on Bussin' with the Boys, we saw,
pod, by the way.
It is a good podcast, and I have only seen the highlights of this. I haven't seen the actual interview the whole way through, but you've got Brock Purdy once again showing you why franchise quarterbacks mean more to their team, or just as much when they're off the field talking as when they are on the field playing almost. And if I were to compliment something that Brock Purdy has done perfectly throughout his career, it's handle the media the entire way, whether it be, high, tight inside pitches from angry local media or softball, underhanded podcast chit chat. He does it all perfectly. This man is undefeated at the podium. He really is. And once again, talk about knowing how to play to a room, Sammy. He tells the guys on the podcast that he would rather win 1 Super Bowl in San Francisco than 3 Super Bowls for the Seattle Seahawks. And stick the landing, kid. You do it every single time you open your mouth.
And what's great about this podcast is both of the hosts are trying to get him to say something a little different and off the path, right? Clearly his answer is supposed to be 49ers, right? That's sort of the obvious answer. I mean, 3 versus 1 is tough to say as the thumbnail suggests, but San Francisco's the answer he's supposed to have, and both the guys poke back at him to try to get there, and he laughs and says, guys, just stop. This is my answer. He sticks to it, as you said, sticking the landing. But not only that, think about it. The contract is here. Now, I don't know. Would this answer have been slightly different if the contract wasn't signed? I don't want to necessarily speculate that because I still think he would have the right answer.
I think he would have had the right answer no matter what. I think they could have taken money from him, and he would have said the right thing in the moment.
And here's why. Do you know how close Brock Purdy was to not being drafted and potentially not being in this league? You can't be any more close to not being in the league than to the last pick of the draft comes up, and there's one team that has an opportunity to choose you at that point. Every team is loyal and remembers fondly the team that drafts him. When you are the last pick of the entire fucking draft, the Niners did you such a solid to take you there. Now you can say you're making $50 million. A lot of other teams should have taken you before the 7th round, but the Niners took you. They took that chance. They decided they had one more pick. It was going to be you. He's going to be loyal to the Niners to the day he dies. Brock Purdy, this is the right answer, but it was also right by the Niners. Look, they didn't think Brock Purdy was better at the time than Trey Lance, than Jimmy Garoppolo, etc. There are other things they did not think in regards to Brock Purdy, but when they got him on the field, they knew it. And guess what? They knew enough to take him. 31 other teams didn't think that of Brock at all at any point over 3 days of a draft, and the Niners at least said, you know what? We'll take a flyer. We'll take a chance. And they did that, and he knows they did that, and now, $50 million annually later, they both know they made the right decision.
Maybe it's just a little like credibility that Brock is starting to establish even with his critics. This hasn't been spun to he's not as competitive as you want to be. He'd rather win 1 Super Bowl than 3. What kind of, I thought for sure that negative take would have come out by now, and it hasn't. So,
thankfully.
Good for everyone paying attention, I guess. There's another thing that also came out of that sit down with Brock Purdy on Bussin' with the Boys that I thought was interesting. And it amplifies no matter how frustrated fans might get, no matter how frustrated coaches might get due to a lack of production. Players have their favorites, and it's usually a player that supports them and befriends them. And Purdy talked an awful lot about his brother, Deebo Samuel. Late last month, George Kittle, I think it might have even been the same podcast, Bussin' with the Boys, George Kittle told them that he was the most talented teammate he has ever had. Now, I would tell George, you're wrong about that. Deebo was very special and unique, certainly maybe the most unique teammate you ever had for a moment in time there. But Deebo's never going to go to the Hall of Fame with anything other than a ticket. You've got first ballot Hall of Famers as teammates around you, George, yourself being one of them, I would think. But it just shows you that Deebo was more liked by his teammates than maybe the fans, the media, the box score. It's hard to see it because Deebo could be pretty frosty at times, but man, his teammates freaking loved him, Sammy.
Look, if you're not Jake Moody, Deebo Samuel's not yelling at you on the sideline, right? Or actually, I think that was that the snapper, the holder? I think maybe it wasn't Moody himself that day, the game against Tampa.
Too, if you don't mind me saying.
Yes, exactly. So let's say this about what that statement means about Deebo coming from Kittle first. We'll take the Brock comments later. I want to take the Kittle part of it first. What Kittle is talking about there, and what we all should remember, is you said unique, and even if you want to say best athlete, think about it because Kittle's on the offensive side of the ball. He saw Deebo do more and have to do more and be responsible for more than anybody but maybe the quarterback when it comes to offense. Because to be a part of running plays the way that Deebo was, and Kittle understands that because Kittle is blocking on numerous plays, right? Kittle's got a really unique role in the offense also. He's not just in the end zone making catches. Kittle's doing something on every play offensively as well that's helping the Niners gain yardage. But for Deebo to take over a game, and again, I'll take it because I'm an Eagles fan. If you go to that Eagles game, the rematch from the NFC Championship, so the regular season matchup of the 2023 season is what we're talking about here. That regular season game, which actually, if you go back, is the unraveling of that Eagles team when you really go back and see where they were at that time before that game. Deebo takes over that game as a runner and as a receiver. He has multiple long plays and multiple long touchdown plays against that Eagles defense and against that Eagles team that day. He was every bit of what you think Deebo is, both as a fantasy football player and as a Niners fan. Deebo was everything, lived up to the moniker of his name. And I'll give Deebo credit on one other thing. He also put his money where his mouth is. Deebo was the one coming out of that NFC Championship game, the loss when Purdy was knocked out of the game. The Eagles go on to the Super Bowl. They lose to the Chiefs in overtime. And Deebo says, forget about what you're saying about that Eagles team. If Purdy's not hurt in that game, we win that game. He said that. And in his next opportunity to prove himself right, not only did the Niners beat the Eagles, I'm not going to say single-handedly, but Deebo smashed the Eagles that day. He said this is what it would be different, and guess what? It was different. It wasn't an NFC Championship. It's not truly a revenge game because that didn't send the Niners to the Super Bowl, although ironically, they did end up in the Super Bowl that season. Think about Deebo's nickname, Damon, because Deebo's name, synonymous with the character from the movie Friday, Deebo is a bully in a way, but when the bully's on your team, this is almost a Draymond Green conversation, right? Draymond Green is beloved by teammates. Don't ask Jordan Poole. But Draymond Green is loved by his teammates because he says it like it is, but he also, that's the guy that has my back no matter what. And Deebo is the guy that personifies that for the Niners. And that's why I think you see the word brother associated with what Kittle is talking about and with what Purdy is talking about. And there is an attitude about Deebo on that team that I think really helped establish what the Niners were on offense. And there's an identity to that they're going to have to solve. That part, not the production. There's an attitude piece that Deebo brings that you could argue this team will be missing when the season gets underway.
They'll miss some of that swagger. I mean, he definitely brought some swagger. He was the guy who was, right next to the boom box as it was being brought out of the locker room.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, Deebo the player, I think will be maybe easier to replace than Deebo the swagger. We'll find out. And good luck to the Washington Commanders because I think they got a player who's got maybe 5 really good games left in his body. They're already making he might not be in good shape jokes in D.C. By the way, Steve Cass says, when has George Kittle ever talked down to any former player? He'll tell you that Trey is a great quarterback who will break out. You're right about that. And that's why George Kittle is basically the 49ers starting tight end and their mascot all rolled up into one. This guy is, if you were going into the lab to invent the perfect teammate, you'd come out with a guy like George Kittle. You would. And even though some of it is lip service to the positive, that's what you do as a teammate. You never throw teammates under the bus in public ever. That's the way you do it. And Kittle always does it the right way.
And Kittle will be the new face of this offense. And by that, I mean the swagger. The swagger piece will now be Kittle's to take over. He will be that guy. He will be the mouthpiece on offense. And remember this, Kittle, as you've said before right here on this podcast, Kittle is beloved by people that are not fans of the 49ers. Kittle is one of these rare athletes that when he's kicking your ass, everybody, the opponent, you still love it because he's got a smile on his face about it, and you can see the enjoyment that he has in the game, not in smashing his opponent. He's got ultimate respect for his opponent, and yet he is dominating, and he's got a smile on his face the whole time, never says the wrong thing, etc. And one other piece about Kittle, Deebo, Purdy here. I want to remind everyone why Purdy is so fond of Deebo, because Deebo was an established star in this offense when the offense had to turn to Purdy to lead it. And that is a moment when receivers and quarterbacks, the ultimate sign of respect in that moment is your receiver having faith in you, because the receiver, by the way, has the most to lose in that situation. When the quarterback is changed out, remember, Deebo wasn't only great with Purdy. Deebo was an established star with other quarterbacks under center for the 49ers. So he has a chance to lose that productivity when another quarterback, especially considering that quarterback is the last on the depth chart, the last one in the draft. Nobody's thinking, at least nobody in the public is thinking, that Purdy's about to lead this offense to another level. But Deebo says, I have faith in you. And just like I said, forever for the rest of his life, Purdy's going to say, wow, the Niners had faith in me. He knows that his star receiver had faith in him, which gave him the confidence to go out and do what he did. And guess what? Go back and look at Deebo's career, because if they're asking Deebo if he misses Purdy, he should say the same thing. Deebo's best season is 2023 when he's in the end zone 12 times, including 7 receiving touchdowns. Purdy and Deebo did end up having a magical connection as well. That was prime Deebo when Purdy was in there running things in 2023.
By the way, I didn't even think we were going to talk about this today, but you brought up a point with Kittle and how universally loved he is. This is a very, very short list of universally loved athletes, not just in the NFL, but anywhere you go. I mean, I've been in my own mind trying to put together a list of what I would call universally loved. The NBA always comes with its specialty boutique corner of hate, no matter who it is. Always. But I would say Steph Curry comes about as close to universally loved as any NBA player could possibly get. George Kittle in the NFL, without a doubt, I think is as close to universally loved as any football player can be by everybody in the league. Ohtani,
I'm so glad you said it. I'm so glad you said it. I mean, it was close between Shohei and Barry Bonds, but yeah, I think it's Shohei. I'm kidding, by the way, obviously, but no. So Shohei is that guy, and here's the thing, Shohei. The difference with Shohei is, I don't want to say beloved, because Yankee fans are going to sort of have a place of hate. There's something about, like, the Yankees, no matter what, if you beat them, I think it's very difficult for them to like anything about that. So I would say those teams that feel that Shohei was maybe in their way from a championship, and that would really be the Yankees, they could maybe say they don't love him. But Shohei, what he has done to the game to elevate baseball, all baseball players should also love him, because they know that they are making more money in the future because of Shohei's popularity. So that, I think you're right. I think those are the 3 guys, and the fact that 2 are Bay Area guys is pretty cool. But Steph undeniable. I remember when Steph threw his mouthpiece, and it was sort of towards a fan, I think, at some point, right? There was once where he like accidentally threw it out and it kind of went towards it.
Right.
That was
skipped to somebody's ankles. It's not
not at all.
People were making a mountain out of that molehill.
That was the closest to a, quote, controversy of maybe which side do you stand on Steph Curry. But that's it. And the reason is with Steph, obviously, the playing with Durant, winning with Durant, deferring to Durant being the best player in that offense also puts Steph on a whole nother level. That's just, I mean, that will forever solidify him.
Can you think of anybody else who's currently playing, an active athlete who enjoys universal love, acceptance? It's hard, isn't it?
It's very difficult. Now, I will say fantasy football allows for a certain, like, there's a certain part of like Jordan Jefferson, I could see that, like, it's like the productivity. If you have him on your fantasy team, you love him. Jefferson? Yeah, I'm sorry, Jordan Jefferson. Jesus, Jordan Jefferson is his brother, by the way, who also lost the national championship with LSU as the quarterback. But yes, Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson can be that guy, I think, Damon, because again, for people that are in fantasy leagues, which many of us are, having him on your team is obviously every week you're celebrating that. I also think the dance itself, for as dumb as simple as it may seem, the gritty, there's something about kids doing that dance as well, like the celebration, right? Like the joy that Jefferson has in the end zone, and it never at his opponent, just for the moment. There's something about that, and I think that Jefferson could be on that level. Yes.
Speaking of universally loved, I mean, dogs are kind of undefeated, right? They tell you in show business, never work with animals.
No,
we are dog sitting a neighbor's corgi.
Look at the corgi.
I've never been a corgi guy, but let me tell you, they're great little dogs. They really are.
Damon, I was never really a little dog guy. And then Crystal Fernandez, who I dated for a while back in the day, she had a beautiful little Chihuahua, and I fell in love with Lola. And then Allie, my wife now, had Ringo, who was really a Chihuahua mix. And the small dog thing is exceptional. You get close, just even physically close to a smaller dog in that way, and it's amazing. That is a good-looking corgi.
It's a good-looking dog, right?
That is a good-looking dog. That is a great-looking. It looks great with you, also, Damon.
Thank you very much. It's a nice accessory.
You're right. Universally loved.
Hey, corgis. Hit like and subscribe. We have guest appearances by Sam Betesh and corgis here on the channel, so it's great to have you there. By the way,
I want please get this up there. I want to tell people in the chat, I would love people that are commenting right now, give us the universally loved players. I think Damon started the list pretty well there. I think Shohei, Steph, George Kittle is great. I really think Justin Jefferson just has a joy, and frankly, in his career has also not beaten, like the Vikings have not slaughtered anyone's dreams. So there's none of that, right? Like Jefferson, Jefferson's greatest games, he may have beaten your team in a regular season, but he hasn't ended anybody's season as a professional. And therefore, I just think there's something about that. I think he's got an unbridled joy for the game and hasn't played in games.
I don't think there's a Minnesota Viking who is universally popular enough to be universally loved. Even Jefferson, maybe in the fantasy league moment, sure, but I'm thinking even bigger than fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, Kittle's got the WWE part of it, so I mean, it's tough to beat that. Kittle has reached people in different arenas in a way that we could never imagine. But I just think he has ended teams' dreams. He has played in a Super Bowl. And he is dominating in a way that crushes your soul when your team is playing against him.
You know what's funny is how Brock Purdy isn't on the universally loved list, because that's a guy that was set up to root for the same way that Kurt Warner was set up to root for at the dawn of that career that nobody saw coming. Anyway, Sam Bruno Mike here says, morning, Plusers. Just a quick hello. Having fun celebrating a 21st anniversary with Silva. Wow. Hello, Damon. Hello,
Sylvia.
Let me Sylvia, thank you very, very Silva. What am I talking about? It's not a
Anderson Silva, UFC. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. UFC right there. Sam Bruno, Mike, thank you so much for the super. You're very, very generous. That'll go straight in the ganja jar. Now, I'm going to tell you, turn off the Stam show and go and enjoy your anniversary with your wife.
You can do that.
As much as she likes the show, I'm sure she'd rather be doing something a little bit more memorable with you than watching this. Or maybe you're both at the Dubliner right now watching.
I hope they're watching at the Dubliner with a nice sandwich. That would be a beautiful way to celebrate with Sylvia. Congrats to the two of them for sure. But I want to say this, Damon. I want everyone to go back and watch this in regards to Brock. I want the people that are on the fence about Brock Purdy to watch this because, frankly, we're in a time of the year when your quarterback's not going to be throwing touchdown passes in games that affect wins and losses, and this is a chance to get to know players. For those of you that aren't going to show up at training camp, etc.
Right here. Wife is for sure just getting ready right now, and she's in the mirror right now, and we got Sam Bruno Mike just kicking it.
Yeah, honey, whatever you want to do, but we're leaving in 10 minutes no matter what. Exactly. But Purdy to be there, to be challenged by the way, and the Bussin' with the Boys podcast, remember, these are two players that he's talking to. So this, and these guys are having fun with him, but they're also challenging him. And these are guys that know that he just got paid. There's a lot of good questions here. But Purdy again is answering the right way, and even there with Deebo, to suggest that he's honest enough, also, right? Like that's not an answer that necessarily the team doesn't want to really hear that. Some quarterbacks, the right answer by a quarterback in that situation is, I love the guys that are here right now. I'm ready to go to war with the guys we have. Deebo was great, but we're ready for what's new. That's frankly the best answer you can give for your current team. The fact that he's honest enough to say that was one of my brothers. that says there's a void. That admits to the team, to the current roster, that there is a void. So I think it's the right answer because it's got a human touch to it. But I want everyone to go and just check out who Purdy is. For those that think that you're not sure of what his personality is, everything like that. I mean, there's such a likability now, and that's the word that Damon and I are talking about. He's a Boy Scout, but he's also likable. There was also like a real reverence to what he was saying. There was a humor to Purdy that I didn't necessarily know. You know, the idea he's laughing with these guys in a way you could see how he brings people together, because quarterback is not just, ask Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's trying to be a better leader at that position. He's great on the field, but he's not necessarily a rah-rah guy, and you can see how that's important. Everyone's not going to be Drew Brees, but Purdy's he's closer to that than you think. Purdy brings these guys together. He does. They rally around Purdy.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I wanted to share a quote with you. This is from Brett Coleman, who's with the All 32 podcast and really good football analyst. And he said something out loud that I think Niners fans need to hear. I'm just going to read it to you. He says, quote, "The narrative that Brock Purdy is propped up by the Niners rather than the Niners being propped up by Brock Purdy is ridiculous. This team, I'm not even kidding, would be one of the 5 worst in the NFL if they did not have Brock Purdy, and it's not even close." I don't know if I agree with that, but the point he's trying to make, I do agree with. They're objectively bad. I don't think the 49ers have been objectively bad at anything. They, last year, were the most hurt team in the entire league, and because Christian McCaffrey wasn't there, they stalled in the red zone, and they had a defense that gave up way too many points in the red zone. Those 3 things all wrapped together kind of sent that season just, you're doomed. You're doomed when you lead the league in injuries and red zone failure on both sides of the line of scrimmage. He goes on to write, at least they're objectively bad. At least they were objectively bad in so many ways that the only reason they were sort of kind of mid in 2024 was because of the existence of Brock Purdy. He's not a system quarterback. He is the system. Again, I appreciate what he's trying to say. I think he's overstating it just a little. What Brock Purdy is perfect at is running Kyle Shanahan's system. He is the perfect guy to execute on the field what Kyle thinks is most important in a football game, and he continued to do that in the massive face of adversity that the 49ers were facing last season. And you got to calm down, little dog.
It's all right. Look, we love... Damon, we love comments from wherever they come from. If they're in the comments section, all right, if someone can figure out how to call us, if we got a corgi in the background, we want to hear from everyone. Levi's come on and given his opinion on this. This is crucial. We already heard from Sylvia today in the mirror as well. I want to say this. I love those comments, and I had shared those with you, and I were texting back and forth about those comments because it almost feels like we wrote that for him in a way. We've said as much. We've said the idea that the offense is great, around him and that he's plugged in just to run it. Again, first of all, what is Brock on the planet to do other than run Kyle Shanahan's offense? What, you want to be doing something else? Why? What do you want to be going off script and doing random shit that gets you in trouble? He's supposed to be running this offense. He's also running it well. He's also not a dink and dunk guy. You and I have shared the numbers from 2023. Go back and look the 2023 season for when Brock Purdy was an MVP candidate and what he was doing. We're talking about leading the league in quarterback rating. Now, by the way, quarterback rating takes into account a lot, Damon. It's not about efficiently running an offense. It's specifically to identify what the quarterback is doing within that offense. So that is about the quarterback making significant plays. I understand none of us can figure out the math of it because it's over 100 at 122.3 or whatever the fuck it is, but it is about comparing quarterbacks to one another. He came out first. Now, you can't tell me that doesn't account for something. That means he is doing a lot, and it's almost a war number in a way. For those that don't understand what war is in baseball, right? It's what would basically your average player do at that position,
right. And then how much replacement player,
right? How many wins are you above what an average player would do? That's almost what the quarterback rating is doing. It's telling you what your quarterback is doing beyond what a static quarterback would do. That's showing you that Brock is doing more than another quarterback could do at that position. Brock is better than the other pieces that you could have in there. The other options that you have. Brock clearly at one moment was the best in the entire league. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. That doesn't just happen by mistake. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
I think you put the right talent, the right protection in front of him and give him a defense that keeps another team honest. The 49ers are going to win a lot of games again this year. I think Christian McCaffrey, I've called him the skeleton key that opens all doors, him being back and Shanahan striking the right balance of being aggressive with McCaffrey when he needs to be and then backing off of McCaffrey when he needs to and has the opportunity to is going to be part and parcel. And that's what I hope Kyle Shanahan's evolution is this year, that he's not just, leaving McCaffrey in there like he's addicted to crack that only McCaffrey can sell. He needs to use Isaac Guerrero. He needs to use the depth, and he needs to get to the postseason with a healthy Christian McCaffrey ready to play. And if that happens, and if this young defense matures quickly, sky's the limit. Against this easiest schedule in the NFL, sky is the limit for this team if it has a modicum of health and a modicum of Christian McCaffrey to throw at the entire season. I saw another comment or another headline that was about, is Christian McCaffrey on the decline? Look, there's an argument to be made that, he's damaged goods, missing almost all of last year. But I will say this, he's still pretty young. He keeps himself in incredible shape. He is absolutely cleared for any and all activity, which means this is the Christian McCaffrey that you get when you get a healthy Christian McCaffrey. And a healthy Christian McCaffrey has never not spelled the league's in trouble. And I really think a healthy Christian McCaffrey helps the 49ers put last year way in the rearview mirror. And I hope he's ready to go in week 1, because this is, I think if the 49ers jump out to a 4-0 start,
which is very possible.
It's out there for them.
3-1 would be outrageous to not hit. Yeah.
If they do that, if they have a team that is ready to go right from the jump and the defense isn't being overwhelmed by just being new to it, I mean, this is how you get to an 11-win season. This is how you get to a 12-win season. You go 4-0 in your first few games, and I think McCaffrey should just be chomping at the bit early on this year, and then hopefully you can back off him as you get into the meat of the season.
I want to break down what this means about Christian McCaffrey. First, I want to say one thing about Purdy. One other thing that came out of that podcast, and please go back and listen and watch. It's great. He was also asked if winning a what he would do to win a Super Bowl. He said he would actually spend a year in jail. Which I think is just amazing to ask. And again, everyone in the comments what would you take from your team? And I always ask this question: would you take 10 years of futility for one Super Bowl championship? Right? If you knew the next decade, the year after you won a Super Bowl, if you knew the next 10 years would be not making the playoffs, would you take that? Most fans are going to say yes. Most fans that their team hasn't won a Super Bowl in recent memory are going to say they would take that Super Bowl championship.
Here's
10 years of nothing
in the moment, but by year 5, you'd be
pissed
like everybody else.
Yes, you would be. And so I love that Brock said he would spend a year in jail to get the Super Bowl championship. And this is a guy that's been in the Super Bowl and been in the NFC Championship twice. I mean, that's pretty incredible. This is not a guy that hasn't sniffed that moment, so he knows how close it is. I love that answer. Again, the commitment to the ultimate goal for all of us is pretty cool to hear in that moment. But let's go now to Christian McCaffrey. So we're all aware, Damon, of what happens in the NBA, the GM poll. The GM poll we're all aware of in the NBA, but it happens in the NFL also. There's sort of a GM and executive poll that happens. Now, heading in to the 2024 season, so before last season started, Christian McCaffrey was the number 1 overall running back chosen heading into that season with this executive poll. All right. So everyone remember, we're not that far removed from McCaffrey being your sort of number 1 fantasy pick, and beyond fantasy, GMs and execs in the league respected him so much that they're saying he was the best heading into last season. Let's establish that. Number 2, let's establish that last season is the least productive season of Christian McCaffrey's career. Okay. So keep that in your mind right now. All right. Forget about Panthers. He was great with memory. He was amazing with the Panthers, and they weren't doing shit. All right. He was amazing there. Niners drafted him. The Niners traded for him. Whole nother level to what he could do. But the last season was the worst, and we know it was because of the injuries. I want to remind you this. 2023 for Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley was the least productive seasons of their careers. Now, with Saquon and stuff, there is one where he was injured. You could say less productive there, but I'm talking on the field numbers and averages. Saquon's last season in New York, from a yards per carry and what he did to the offense percentage-wise, was the least productive he had ever been. And Derrick Henry, with what he was doing his last season in Tennessee, was the least productive he had been. So we're going to say McCaffrey right now is in what we could consider the least productive season he ever had. That's what he's coming off of.
Big bounce back.
Before last season, Saquon and Derrick Henry were coming off of the least productive seasons of their careers. And what happened? Now, granted, a lot changed. Obviously, Tennessee to Baltimore, big change. Giants to Eagles, big change. But if we take Niners with injuries versus Niners, solid back, injuries off the table, that's a completely different scenario. That's like stepping into a brand new team, a brand new offense as well for Christian McCaffrey. So if you're following that trend, and we should, because remember, the running back position was considered you're done at 29 years old. That's what everyone was thinking. And now I want you to understand this. Christian McCaffrey was the offensive player of the year in 2023. And that's what Saquon Barkley is right now. Currently the reigning offensive player of the year for 2024. That's Saquon Barkley, and that was coming off of his least productive season. Derrick Henry, forget about resurgence. Without question, the two best running backs in the league for last year are Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. Historic, really, when you look at what both of them do. Christian McCaffrey, healthy, is headed for that potential with a healthy Niners offense. That's what people should be thinking. On the decline, yes, every running back based on age. Every running back is on the decline other than Ashton Genty. Every year after the first you spend in the year, you're basically at a decline as a running back.
First carry,
yes,
ball downhill from there. Yeah.
It's like a car driving off the lot. A running back is like a new car driving off the lot. You're immediately worth less the minute you take that first carry. That's just what it is, because it is tread on a tire at that position. But teams have become better equipped at this. Something shifted. I understand the narrative is that running backs are replaceable, but really go back and look at the league right now. Look at the top running backs in the league from last season. It is different now. Jonathan Taylor tells you a different story. Saquon Barkley tells you a different story. Derrick Henry tells you a different story. And Christian McCaffrey has the capability to tell you that different story, coming off of not only the least productive, but the most injured part of his career. It is about to happen now all over again.
Well, and Sammy, I'm going to be doing a video with Warren Sharp a little bit later today. He's one of the best analysts out there looking at football. This guy should be working for a team, not just cranking out stats and gambling guides and all that stuff. But he's got an incredible amount of information that I've been poring over, getting ready for the interview that we're going to be doing a little bit later on today. And look, nearly everything went wrong for this offense in 2024. And the funny thing is a lot of the numbers in terms of just yardage, they were still pretty good for the 49ers. But Christian McCaffrey played a career-low 167 offensive snaps. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall missed multiple games. Trent Williams missed a career-high 7 games. The 49ers ran a grand total in 2024 of 57 plays with Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Samuel, and Kittle all on the field together. That's it. They were a healthy team for about a half of football.
That sounds like the Brooklyn Nets. That sounds like the Brooklyn Nets from 5 seasons ago with Durant, Harden, Ben Simmons. Right? That team played together and Kyrie, right? Kyrie, Durant, Harden, Ben Simmons. They spent, I believe, 16 games on the court together. That was it over an 82-game season. So that's the equivalent of what you're talking about with what the Niners spent healthy on the offensive side of the ball. And one other feather in the cap for McCaffrey, he was injured last season, but guess what goes along with being injured? He will now be the freshest he has been heading into the season.
It's funny. You can't really think of like, oh, you're refilling your tank of energy when you're up and hurt, but he really is. And a year off in the middle of a career for a running back, it would probably be a good thing to do when healthy. I'm going to take a year off, a gap year, just to reset my body.
A bye week. He had a bye season. Think about that. I mean, McCaffrey basically he had 2 preseasons, really. He basically had 2 preseasons that he went through in 2024, and now he's ready for 2025. I think, and again, Also, remember what Kyle Shanahan does with that position. He is so creative with that position. He will use Garendo. He will find the right rest for McCaffrey. There will be the right mix of what needs to happen. I understand there won't be those Deebo gadget plays. There will be other creative plays in there. That is for sure. Kyle Shanahan is too smart when it comes to the running game. It is going to happen.
Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on both channels if you would, please, before you go anywhere today. It helps the show grow. The algorithm kisses us on the forehead. The more you interact with the show, the more you hit like, the more you leave a comment. So thank you all very, very much for watching. Couple of other NFL things before we fan out in another direction or two. Number one, I saw a list of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And the question is where is Aaron Rodgers on the list of greatest quarterbacks of all time? Sam, here's my hot take. He's not on the list.
Okay. Very hot.
Aaron Rodgers is not on the list of greatest quarterbacks of all time.
That's like burn your hand on the stove hot. That is.
Now, you want to go ahead and extend it out to who are the 25, the 30 best quarterbacks of all time? Yeah, I mean, that's where Aaron Rodgers' name is going to show up. He was a regular season stat compiler of accuracy of the first degree. Aaron Rodgers, for a minute there, was as this pass is going to be completed before it was thrown as you could get. But what I never understood, and, Aaron Rodgers is now in Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers was in New York. And Aaron Rodgers equals you're going to go to the Super Bowl. Bullshit. This guy went to one Super Bowl, won it because Desmond Howard had a hell of a day. Like Aaron Rodgers is a very good quarterback. I'd say he is on the top tier of the list of very, very, very good quarterbacks. But one Super Bowl and all the headaches that this guy's provided, I'm going to tell you, one of the best things that ever happened to Aaron Rodgers' career is that it was sort of hidden in plain sight in Green Bay, where the media is not breathing down your throat, where the media is not trying to play got you saying the wrong thing level of questions. It wasn't until Aaron Rodgers had an opportunity to volunteer to all of us what an in his own head tinfoil hat wearing douchebag he kind of is that we really realized who he is. He has thrown coaches, offenses, players, drafts under the bus repeatedly in
Super Bowl winning head coaches.
And I just think that that's one of the reasons why he's not on the list. By the way, my list, real quick, here it is. And I don't think you can argue with this. My list in no particular order. Here's my top 10. Brady, Montana, Elway, Manning, Favre, Breeze, Steve Young, Dan Marino, Johnny Unitas, and I'd be happy to kick Johnny Unitas off the list to add Patrick Mahomes to be in more of the now.
Your list is great. And I think Mahomes is on my list. I think your 10 there are very well accounted for. And for Rodgers to break into that, it would take almost this sort of resurgent, like what Favre did in Minnesota. I'm going to tell you, what Favre did in Minnesota is a reason why he is on this. What Favre did in Green Bay is incredible, but I am just as impressed with what I saw Favre do towards the end of his career in Minnesota to be in an NFC championship game with the Vikings after the disaster that happened in New York. That took another level. He had to reach deep down within himself to find that version of himself again, and he did it. Could Favre do that in Pittsburgh? Right now, it seems unlikely. If Rodgers does something the way Favre did in Minnesota, if Rodgers does that in Pittsburgh, yes, we're going to say, oh my God.
Then I guess he will have kicked his door down, and somebody says, what about John Elway? He's on my Brady.
He's on
Montana,
the list. No, I want to hear from everybody. Yeah. I think you have it's very difficult not to get those names in there, right? I mean, if you're just talking like off the top of your mind, if you've watched football at all for the last 30 years, these are the names that are going to come up. Look, the sort of the Montana Elway Marino is the conversation, right? Like a decade ago, 2 decades ago, certainly that was it, right? Like
Dan Marino you had to say that. Guy that we were very comfortable discussing is one of the greatest of all time, even though we never won a Super Bowl. But if you watch Dan Marino play a quarter of football for the Miami Dolphins with your own 2 eyes in your life, there was no doubt that this motherfucker was different.
The way that we say Mahomes, Allen, Burrow right now, and Lamar, the way we say those 4 as the top 4 in the game is the way that people used to say Montana, Elway, Marino. They were almost the same. It was a sentence. Right. It was a run-on sentence. Montana, Elway, Marino. And now, of course, we're adding, yes, Brady's in there for sure. I think Mahomes gets in there, the Favre, those are clearly in there. And you talk about the history of the league and you can't write it without those names. It's true. Is Rodgers part of the history? Yes. I think it's okay for you to say out of the top 10. Now that you list it, I think it sounds outrageous when you say it. He's not a top 10 quarterback. Then you come up with the list, and now it's not so outrageous. Because now you're talking, look at you, you're talking about Unitas and Mahomes. One of those has to not be on it. To go only 10,
Right.
Unitas and Mahomes can't both even be on it. So that tells you something, because Peyton Manning, it's an automatic. These guys don't need to give their name at the door. These guys are walking in. This ceremony is planned around them when you're talking top 10. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry.
Like, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait. One guy here going, Peyton Manning with
Oh,
the
get out of
like, what are you thinking about? No, it's just say it without hesitation. Peyton Manning is one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks in the history of this league, and there's zero to debate.
And again, and all you have to do is ask Tom Brady to come up with a list. Peyton Manning's going to be the second name out of his mouth. He's going to say Montana, Peyton Manning. I promise you, Tom Brady has Peyton Manning on that level. And guess what? Really, if you really want to go back and appreciate Peyton Manning, I always say this. Go back and watch, I believe it's 2007, the 2007 AFC Championship game, the year that the Colts won the Super Bowl. The year that the Colts beat the Bears in the Super Bowl, the game they played to get to that Super Bowl, they are losing in Indy in the AFC Championship. I believe the game is 21-3 Patriots early in that game, and Peyton Manning comes back and wins that game against Tom Brady. And by the way, check out what Brady did later in his career, face-to-face, head-to-head with Peyton Manning. He lost more games from that point than he won against Manning. So the narrative is we remember New England beating Manning again and again and again, but Manning later in his career actually found a way to beat Brady. That is a lot more close than you realize. And again, look at the record books when it comes to quarterback. Peyton Manning, that's hilarious that anyone challenges that name of all names. I do want to give Rodgers credit for one thing. Mark Murphy, who is stepping down as the president of the Packers, he wrote this grand farewell to the entire team, and he had one regret in all of it. His one regret is that he didn't win more championships with Rodgers. And at first I saw that and I said, okay, it's a great statement to make. It's the right thing. And the fans want to hear that you wanted to do more, even though you did deliver a championship. To me, if you're an executive and you deliver a championship, like you've done your job. You and I talked about how difficult it is. We all think that this just happens for New England and the Yankees of the early 2000s. You don't win again and again and again. Luck plays a part. You win, you're the best, and then the next year you're nothing. You start at nothing, and it is difficult to get back. But my second thought was, why does everyone think that Rodgers just deserved another championship or should have been there? I look at the 15-1 season that they lost to the Giants. Yes, that was made. That was, of course, another run you could have made. But it is not just guaranteed. Again, we talked about Marino. Being the best does not put you in the Super Bowl. It just doesn't. There are so many other factors at play. Rodgers won a championship. He didn't need another. And Peyton Manning's second championship is not some incredible collection of Peyton Manning plays. If you look at that, what Peyton Manning did best in that offense, remember, Brock Osweiler beat him out at one point during that season. Peyton Manning came back and won that second Super Bowl because he was the best at choosing the right plays against the defense in there. He was best at deciphering what play they should be in, and it was a running play more often than it was a pass play for that entire season and for that postseason run. So Peyton Manning in his second was not some incredible crowning achievement. This wasn't Elway spinning helicopter style into the end zone against Brett Favre, all right? This was really Manning checking into run plays and getting the Broncos through that based on, as we know, the heart of that defense, Von Miller, etc. That was not a Peyton Manning Super Bowl, that second one. So for Rodgers, I don't know that he needs a second to be a part of this. I don't know that he deserved to be there again. I think it's fine that he won one, and he beat a hell of a team. By the way, he beat the Steelers and Roethlisberger. That was an awesome Super Bowl performance out of him. I'm going to just leave it. Rodgers is outside of the top 10, not as much because of who Rodgers is, but because of what the league has provided at that position. Period, including the guy that
and what he's
him.
become, he's become. Aaron Rodgers it'd be impossible to describe him as a good teammate over the last 4 or 5 years of his career. It would be impossible.
And I want to remind everyone, I know Mike McCarthy doesn't have a job right now, but again, Mike McCarthy won a Super Bowl with Rodgers. And at the end, the comments that came out, the reason that McCarthy really lost that job in Green Bay is because essentially Rodgers said McCarthy wasn't smart enough to be working with him anymore. That's really, if you really read between the lines, that's basically what he said. Now, good for McCarthy. He got another job in Dallas. You could argue how that went. I mean, frankly, Dak Prescott's got playoff wins with Mike McCarthy and nobody else. So that, we have to at least look at that. But also, Rodgers couldn't figure out a way to stay with Matt LaFleur. And when you look at what LaFleur did for the first 3 seasons with Rodgers, 13 wins, 13 wins, 13 wins.
Pretty impressive.
I just don't what wasn't going right there? That guy had him in position to be at the level he wanted to be at. And LaFleur comes from an exceptional coaching tree. He is considered one of those bright, heady, forward-thinking guys in the NFL right now. That was Rodgers' match right there. And I think that was his greatest mistake, was not figuring out how to stick with LaFleur, because that guy's doing it now with Jordan Love instead of Aaron Rodgers.
The other story that is sort of bubbling underneath the surface this morning around the NFL, and we were not going to spend too much time on it because I honestly haven't done that much research on it, but I do know a conflict of interest when I see one. And there is a major conflict of interest right now happening in football. First of all, football's conflict of interest was sort of brought onto the radar by the Pablo Torre collusion 61-page NFL document that he uncovered. Now, there's a lot of legalese and minutia in there that fans really don't pay attention to, but there is absolutely no doubt that owners get together and talk about, hey, how do we pay players cheaper? And they proved it. And then that was covered up, and it was agreed to that the findings would never come public. And now the NFLPA is getting all bent out of shape about that, and maybe rightfully so, because they wanted more information than they were given by their own acceptance of a ruling that just was not in their favor. Anyway, we tell you that to tell you this, that the NFLPA, the head of the NFLPA is a guy named Lloyd Howell. Well, it turns out Lloyd Howell also works for a firm that is approved to invest in the NFL. Now that NFL is able to sell off a little to equity investors, this guy also works for a firm that is trying to invest on the owner's behalf in the NFL. And sources say a union lawyer asked Howell to consider resigning, and he has refused to do that. This is completely unethical. The head of the players union cannot have a personal financial interest in the financial success of NFL owners. That's the wrong side of the table. You are on the other side of the table. And the union should absolutely demand his resignation, if not out and out fire him and say, we'll see you in court for breach of contract. There's something called fiduciary responsibility, and this guy is bucking his by trying to play both sides of the table.
The players will have a voice on this. The players will read this. There are a few players on each team who are very interested in this. Obviously, each team has a representative that checks in with the NFLPA. Those players will read this and understand what it means, that he's on both sides. And that is not, forget about collusion, forget about legality. They'll understand that it's not in their best interest. In other words, if this guy's supposed to represent them and also is making friends with the owners in this way in a financial place, they'll know that that's just simply not good business for them moving forward. So that's what will happen. The players will gain a voice in this, and that'll be how this is decided. Period. Number 2, how similar is this to the idea that Tom Brady is a part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders and is able to broadcast national games for the league? Now, to me, from a selfish standpoint, I want Brady on broadcast. I got to tell you, I've watched the Super Bowl that the Eagles won against the Chiefs probably 50 times. And I will forever enjoy the idea that it was Tom Brady that had to tell us about that it was Tom Brady praising Jalen Hurts in that matchup against Mahomes on a day that for Eagles fans, they will never have enjoyed more, because there even wasn't stress involved with beating Mahomes in a Super Bowl. Who would have ever guessed it? But the idea that it's Tom Brady.
Was it more satisfying to win a Super Bowl with Brady on the call or to beat Tom Brady in a Super Bowl?
Having both, I got to say, is the greatest debate of my life. Right, Tom Brady throws for 500 yards and loses to the Eagles. That's pretty amazing. The fact that he's also there while they're beating Mahomes in a way that Brady cannot believe they're beating Mahomes is also special. And the reason I'll say that one is more enjoyable than the other is this. 2017 is enjoyable after the fact. 2024 is enjoyable while it's happening. Those are two different experiences, right? The Eagles in a back and forth game with the Patriots is not fun during the game. It's only in the outcome that you can smile. The fact that we're smiling as Cooper DeJean is running a ball into the end zone in the second quarter thinking, wow, this is going to happen. That's amazing.
Nothing? Oh, 17
yeah, 17 nothing. Right? Yes. I mean, that's an hour of your life that you just know something is going to happen and you get to relish in it. That's amazing. Obviously, Falcons fans up 28-3, not the same experience, but for the Eagles, it turned out the right way. And I'll just say this. I love that Brady's on broadcast. I don't think, look, he's not. I still think Romo. I'll take Romo. I know you have an opinion on both guys significantly.
I'll take Greg Olsen over everybody.
And I think Olsen's fantastic. And obviously the Eagles lost the Super Bowl that Olsen was calling, but he did a remarkable job. I do love Greg Olsen. But I love that Brady is still close to the game. I think Brady's opinion still matters, right? Think about this. When Brady praises Brock Purdy this season, which is going to happen, we all know it, doesn't that mean something significant? It does. I'm sorry. His opinion matters when it comes to that position, when it comes to offense, when it comes to being great, when it comes to defining winning and championships. Brady's opinion matters. I want to hear it. But is it a conflict of interest to have him with access to a Broncos practice?
Well, that's what
he is the owner of the Raiders, and
they denied him.
They did, and that's so my point here is there a way to allow this head of the NFLPA to have some access and not all access and hold this position? It's probably too hard to decipher that and split hairs.
No, you can't be negotiating contracts on behalf of the player and negotiating contracts on behalf of the owner at the same time.
Seems impossible.
Like that to me is way more contractually questionable than even what Tom Brady's situation that he's trying to negotiate is. I like. And
here's the other thing. Tom, say this guy's name again. Lloyd. What is this? Lloyd Powell.
What's it? Lloyd Howell.
Sorry. Okay. So Lloyd Howell,
Thurston
Tom Brady.
Howell.
So yes, Thurston Howell III. Lloyd Howell and Tom Brady, two very different names coming out of my mouth, right? And so Tom Brady's going to get the benefit of the doubt in regards that he is either likable or sort of respected in a way, or in that ironic way that really rich people get shit paid for them all the time, right? Like in one of those weird ironies of life. So Brady is now given the benefit of the doubt when he doesn't need it anymore, right? He will win most situations if everyone's against him, and yet everyone wants to be with him. So that's what Tom Brady has going for him on his side. The problem is Powell will not. And as I mentioned, the players will realize this is simply not going to make them more money, because that's what this comes down to. This has the potential to lose money for them, and that's where it will hit them in their wallets, and they will say, this is not in our best interest. This is a bad idea.
The one last football subject that I kind of wanted us to get into today, it comes from college. And Deion Sanders is now back in Boulder. He had a little bit of an offseason health scare. I'm glad that Deion is back. Deion is good for the college game. Watching Deion take over the the Buffaloes now without his son being attached to it, that's going to be kind of interesting to see how much they either progress or regress. I will always love college football, but I got to tell you, Deion Sanders just said out loud in an interview recently that he wishes college football had a salary cap. Deion, it used to. It was 0. That was the cap. And it's not Deion Sanders' fault. It is the NCAA's fault that they let the genie out of the bottle in a wild, wild west situation where the marketplace started to dictate what money can be spent here before there was ever any guardrails put on any of this. The NCAA in my lifetime went from a strong, intimidating organization to the most feckless, helpless, rudderless organization that's supposed to be a governing body of several sports. And it's ridiculous how broken the systems are around college football while it continues to grow in every direction. I was talking about this yesterday. I don't want to see them mess with the NCAA tournament at all. It's the last thing that we can actually still recognize from the world of college sports. That bracket is more recognizable than rosters, than conferences, than, who's playing where. We don't know. Transfer portals means there's a brand new team every year you're looking at. And, Dion is one of those, he really is a have your cake and eat it too type of guy. He wants his players paid until right up he sees how ridiculous this all is. Now he wants a salary cap.
He wants an even playing field. Let's break this down to what it is. As much as Dion has put Colorado on the map from a football standpoint, where, let's be honest, they just were not, right? We're still talking about Eric Bieniemy, if not for Deion Sanders.
Right. You had a minute of what? Rashawn Salam.
Exactly. This is not, and look, we love our lawyer Drew here as part of Damon Bruce Plus and Thinking Out Loud. Siciliano and Sam, right?
We have a Colorado alum in our quiver to fire at any legalese we need.
And our emergency phone number in our phone is Drew Sherman, our lawyer, okay? And he is a proud Colorado Buffalo graduate. And he knows that there have been many, many seasons of futility and irrelevance that came from the University of Colorado. And Dion has put them on the map in that way. But they cannot compete from a financial standpoint the way other programs can. There are still those that will outspend overall, not for one player necessarily, but for a collection of players. There will be more money at other universities. What he has said, this benefits Dion because this potentially levels the playing field. It also comes when he lost two superstars, right? So think about how he has to reload this now. His son and Travis Hunter are gone. They defined what this team was last season. Again, an incredibly special season, right? We're talking about a team that is beating the participant in the national championship game to start their season, right? It looks like Colorado can beat anything and do anything. It kind of falls to earth after that. That's okay, but it was still a special season throughout.
They've never been more relevant, even in their national championship year over Notre Dame. So there you go.
And now he understands rebuilding this again and again and again, as you said, transfer portal, etc. He knows how difficult it is and what a salary cap would do, as it does in the NFL, of course. It does level it a little bit, where Carolina can compete with the Dallas Cowboys because we're all spending the same amount of money theoretically.
Right. How you go about allocating that dollar amount throughout your roster, well, that's the difference in between us and you.
Yes. And so it's fascinating that he, I'm sure, would plant his flag on the idea that players should be paid. Obviously, he was talking about getting his son paid at that point in time. So, why not, right? He should absolutely have a megaphone on that conversation. But now he's also realizing, wow, if you're in the Wild West where it just comes down to donors, you don't think the University of Texas can spend more than the University of Colorado? That is a fact. And that will be a fact that is based on years prior to this ruling where players could get paid, that Texas was simply spending more money with boosters than Colorado was. And so, I'm sorry, that's sort of wealth versus new money, right? Texas is built on this exceptional wealth over generations. And right. For Colorado, there's new money infused. And one is a lot easier to tap into than the other. One has to sort of be raised again and again, and the other is just built on a foundation. So the salary cap is not an outrageous idea, and it does serve him well. I don't know which side of the fence I stand on. I kind of love the idea that a team that is spending new could take down a powerhouse, an Ohio State, a Texas. Imagine if there was a team, and Colorado certainly feels like the face of it. What if there was a team that could just say, now players are both picking us for the money and the cachet? Yes.
Can I give you another one? Indiana University.
Amazing.
Colorado had a football history that was on the level of Alabama success compared to what Indiana has been in football. But now Indiana, making a first appearance ever in the first ever college football playoff, is now throwing more money at that roster and at coaches and at recruits than ever before. And it has changed things overnight. Now we'll see what kind of follow-up year they can have after the single greatest year in the history of the program. There really is nowhere to go but down. So we'll see what that looks like. But, Colorado at least has some history to it, where Indiana has historically been the doormat that major college football has wiped its cleats off on forever.
Yeah, so, look, arguably their greatest quarterback is a receiver in the NFL, right? Antoine Randall L. is sort of, right?
With all due respect to Trent Green.
Yeah, true. Also, yes, you're right. I don't want to forget Trent at all. But that's what we're talking about in the history of the game from Indiana, of course. I really don't know where I stand. I don't know if I love the idea that it's a free-for-all and you can just spend, and it's this sort of wonderful way to see the two different positions of college football and the NFL. Here's what happens with a cap, here's what happens without it. I sort of like that, especially in a new world where players are just now getting paid. Over time, I think I'll come to the idea that the salary cap is necessary, but I sort of like the idea of, wow, because you know what? You get a better sense of how NIL changes the game without the salary cap.
No doubt.
So that's interesting.
By the way, says Neon Dion. He's saying the quiet part out loud. Straight cash, homie. Well, Leslie, what he's saying is, hey, maybe less cash,
less
or maybe
cash, homie.
The same amount, equal amount of cash for everyone to spend, homie, is what Dion is saying now. By the way, I guarantee you that was a thought that he came up with right after he lost like 3 or 4 recruits to other teams in the SEC who got we ain't fucking around dollars. Compared to Colorado's, yeah, we're just kind of fucking around dollars.
Well,
you know,
and here's what it comes down to. Also, I mean, look, Saban's out of the game. Is there a coach in college football right now that shows up in a living room that means more than Dion? I don't think. I mean, go through that in your head, right? I mean, really. I mean, even coming off a national championship with Ohio State, I still think Dion showing up is a more powerful moment for you and your parents than anyone else I can think of in college football.
More neighbors will come running to the front, your own front yard when Dion steps out of the car than when Ryan Day steps out of the car.
That's just it, right? I mean, for those that know it and are tied to the championship and tied to the program, yes, of course, Day is going to mean that. But I'm sorry, Deion Sanders in a just stop someone on the street and ask them if they know who this is or show a picture of him. So this is more, so it's less about the sunglasses and who Deion is. What happens is after, see, here's what happens. Deion's in the living room and the kid's in. And the parents are in and the family's in, right? Then he leaves, and guess what everyone does in life? They write on a piece of paper pros and cons for the different options that they have. We all did this to go to college, and we weren't getting paid shit, okay? But think about if money is on the table. You're telling me on the pros and cons list that money isn't the first line for everybody? My son can make this to go there. That's part that starts every conversation. The sunglasses are nice, but the money is going to play a factor. It does for all of us in every fucking decision we make.
Right. Money and opportunity. Can I get on the field and play? How quickly can I play? And what are you going to pay me to be here are questions that, are certainly new questions that are being asked by college players like now than ever before. And it's really a very, very interesting time. And by interesting, I mean completely fucked up because the NCAA, instead of taking control of what it had control over, ceded it because it was that poorly of a run organization. It really, really was. Couple of other things before we get to today in history here, Sammy. Okay, I want to start with the statement that I really like Devin Booker as a basketball player. Now, Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns have been more laughed at than admired, especially going through the whole Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant thing. That is being broken up now. And the remaining pieces are, well, I guess the most important son there is Devin Booker, and they certainly feel that way because, again, Devin Booker just agreed to a 2-year, $145 million maximum contract extension with the Suns that'll take him through the 29-30 season. At $72.5 million, it's the largest annual extension salary in NBA history, taking just days to eclipse what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as MVP champion finals MVP was just given with his Supermax, which was 75.21 again, or 72.51. Now it's Devin Booker making the most.
Wow.
Now, let me just say, in the history of basketball, no one has ever said, Devin Booker's coming to town tonight. I got to buy a ticket because I got to go watch Devin Booker play. Devin Booker is the reason why I'm here. It's not the Suns. It's not the opponent. I'm here for the Devin Booker show. That has never been said by anybody outside of the Kardashian that he was fucking in the moment.
Well, I want to go on that point as well. Do you know there is a rumor that and you could ask the Kardashians about this for sure. There's a rumor that Devin Booker does have the largest schwanz in the league. Is
that
yes.
true?
Well, I have a photo of some things that we share on the screen sometimes. I don't have that with me, unfortunately. Okay. But That is a rumor amongst locker rooms. Even less so about the Kardashians. It is more about that rumor does float in the league. So I want to give Booker credit for that. Something, again, there are many things I cannot do on a basketball court.
That and $70 million a year, life's unfair.
That is so unfair. So good for Devin Booker for both of those things. Obviously, the most popular Devin Booker ever would have been with Durant and Beal, being a part of that, which was considered the big three. And Phoenix thought they figured it out because they had Booker, Beal, and Durant, and we know how that went. We got two coaches fired.
That's why Durant ultimately left? He was tired of showering with him?
Yeah, it could very well be. You know that Durant likes to be the alpha, and that is a tough. That's an argument ender. That really is. I mean, when you put it right, everyone says put your cards on the table. Well, I mean that's truly cards on the table, and there's not much you can say.
One thing Pippen had over Jordan, apparently.
Exactly. So that could be one of the reasons. To your point, is Booker that guy? No. I will say this also though. There's more funny money in the NBA. When you go down a roster, when you go down a bench on the NBA, there is not more of a wow, this guy's still in the league. Wow, this guy's making that kind of money. Wow, that guy's an assistant coach on that team making that kind of money. The NBA, if you are in the club in the NBA, you are making so much ridiculous money. And what Phoenix knows now is we had Booker as a superstar before the Durant and Beal thing, and we were headed in the right direction with Ayton, right? I mean, think about it. This team's in the NBA Finals, Chris Paul, right? I mean, that team's in the NBA Finals. Forget about Durant and Beal. They were headed in the right direction when they were paying Booker as their super, super elite star. Now, they lose the experiment with Beal and Durant. They know that they want to get back to their roots of building from what they started, from the player that they brought in, that they cultivated. So they're throwing those resources to say, all right, all players want to do in this league is head somewhere else. They just dealt with the number one guy who loves to go somewhere else always in Kevin Durant. And they're saying, we're not going to let that happen. This guy's been listening to Kevin Durant for 2 years now in his ear about what he should do to make his career better somewhere else. And we're going to say, fuck that. You're staying here, Booker. We built a team that could go to the finals once. We will do that again with you. Trust us.
NBA topic number 2.
Love this one.
Will the Los Angeles Lakers trade LeBron James this upcoming NBA season? Rich Paul says, quote, he knows the Lakers are building for the future. We understand the difficulty in winning now while preparing for the future. We don't want to evaluate what's best for LeBron at this stage in his life and career. We do want to evaluate. Okay. What are you talking about? You have Luka Doncic and now DeAndre Ayton on your team. Now, you could say there's enough money being wrapped up into all those guys. There isn't much of a team around them. Well, guess what? Welcome to the modern NBA. You pay 3 guys top dollar. You're going to have a YMCA team basically coming off the bench around those guys. How can LeBron, being paired with Luka Doncic, be talking about a better chance to win somewhere else and remain in favor with the Los Angeles Lakers? I'll tell you the one thing he's got over Devin Booker is he does sell the tickets.
Yes, he does. Every team in the league still welcomes LeBron like it is the biggest night on their season, regular season for sure. But we'll say this. The Lakers won 1 playoff game with Luka and LeBron, which, by the way, may be the most stunning thing that happened outside of Shedeur Sanders dropping to the 3rd day in the draft. The idea that the Lakers with Luka and LeBron won 1 playoff game, and they weren't playing the 93 Bulls. They were playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who they were favored against. Right. They hosted that series. They lost that series in 5 games in which Rudy Gobert stomped their season out like they were half of a lit match. I mean, it wasn't even close. Gobert was the best player in the building that night. It was remarkable. But the Lakers with Luka and LeBron, you're right, Damon. What the fuck are we talking about here? What Rob Pelinka did to build to sort of rebuild in the moment with this team, I understand there can be a slight piece of jealousy, if you will, towards the idea that the future of this team will be built around Luka Doncic. But LeBron will be the first to tell you he's not 10 years of prime LeBron left in front of him the way Luka has.
The 26-year-old instead of the 48-year-old. I know LeBron's not 48, but you know what I mean.
No, you're absolutely right on that. I do want to look at this from a couple of different standpoints. Number one, can you give me my favorite rumor about LeBron playing somewhere else? First of all, I think LeBron's got a great chance to win in LA with new ownership. Again, the Dodgers ownership knows how to win and knows how to win with superstars. This is not a team that put it together like the Oakland A's of the early 2000s, right? This is a team that added Shohei Ohtani. They're paying Shohei Ohtani $1 billion, and it's a deal.
3 MVPs on their roster.
Okay, their lineup is Shohei, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. All right, those are 3 guys that would start your franchise elsewhere in the MLB. They're all on one team together. It's insane. The Dodgers know how to win. They know how to throw money at the problem to win, and they will do that in LA with these Lakers, and they'll do it with LeBron. They'll do it without him, but they can certainly do it with him. This is a new ownership group that will know how to win. I think LeBron should stay, but if you're sending him somewhere else, I want to just look at the idea of a great hot rumor that is out there, because it almost happened once. It was a rumor. Apparently LeBron and Rich Paul, they fought it down. But Steph Curry had a very interesting tweet the other day when LeBron was out there golfing, and they were kind of going back and forth about playing golf together. And that got everyone thinking, wow, what if these guys were actually playing together? I'm so upset still that Durant is not still with Curry. Would LeBron and Curry be at that level? Do we think that LeBron is still at that point in his career where it would be that it's not going to be as resonating as prime Durant? I just don't think it can be that. But would I love to see Steph and LeBron together? I think I would. I think selfishly, I just would.
All I can tell you this is I don't know where that team would go. It clearly wouldn't have very long of a shelf life with everyone's age being factored in.
And Jimmy, right? Let's say Jimmy Butler's name out loud, because that's an interesting chemistry piece there also.
But it would be the single biggest story globally in sports the minute that it happened. It would dwarf the Kevin Durant to the Warriors story. It would dwarf the LeBron is going to the Los Angeles Lakers story. It would dwarf maybe the original decision, which I think we're in like an anniversary week of right now. His decision
15 years. 15 years ago this week. 15 years ago this week, he sat with Jim Gray. And by the way, that's why all of this player movement is even being discussed, Damon. Think about it. This is all the reason that Rich Paul is having this and saying this is because LeBron defines for this league what became of Kevin Durant. The idea that you could say on a great team, I want to be somewhere else, that's LeBron, who said it in front of everybody. I have no problem with what he did. I love that he put players on the pedestal to say, not only are we great to watch on the court, I will sit in a folding chair at the YMCA, you will televise it, and everyone will wait on every single word I say because it is that important. I loved that for Jim Gray and LeBron when it happened, and it was spectacular. And guess what? Good for him. It was also a surprise. Nobody knew where he was going. That was amazing. When he said he's taking
the only thing I knew for sure is that he wasn't staying in Cleveland. You don't have an ESPN special to tell everyone I'm staying in Cleveland, everybody.
Exactly. And that's why people thought it was a little unfair to Cleveland. They all kind of waited for that moment to hear it, and then it sort of felt like an FU to Cleveland, which of course it wasn't. He came back and won a championship for them. But I only want to say 15 years ago, he changed the way this league thinks, and that's why we now get to dream of scenarios where Steph and LeBron can be together. It's why we got to see Steph and Kevin Durant together. It's why Kevin Durant left the Warriors. It's because player empowerment was born in that moment. And good for LeBron for doing that. And he won a championship in 3 places. So not only did he embody that, he also delivered in all of the places that he went and came from. I mean, that you got to give LeBron credit for that. I love LeBron for that. I think he defined what this league is and makes it more exciting. The offseason of the NBA now rivals the NFL because of what LeBron did. The player movement, the idea that players are so apt to quickly say, I'm out of Brooklyn, I'm headed to Phoenix, I'm out of Golden State, I'm headed to Brooklyn. All of that is because of what LeBron did when he televised his decision. And then years later, he gave it to Lee Jenkins that he was going back to Cleveland. That was also an incredible surprise to everybody. He delivers that championship against Draymond, kicking him in the nuts. And that we will never forget. That's the history of the league through LeBron's decision. It is. But I also want to mention one thing. The LeBron and Steph thing is beautiful, and I'd love to see it, especially with Jimmy. I'd love Jimmy, LeBron, and Steph. That would just, forget about if I could forget about age for one season, I'd love to see it. But I want to look at the Eastern Conference real quick. Because the reason Windhorst talked about LeBron going somewhere else is because he tweeted about a gym in Ohio. He was working out in Ohio, which is not surprising. It's where he's from. So it sort of kicked the dust on, wow, would he maybe come back to Cleveland? Is that what he's alluding to, et cetera?
Hey, he might be in a better position to win a championship back in Cleveland going through the East than staying out West and taking
Can we talk about
the Warriors situation?
Can we talk about the Eastern Conference really quick? The Knicks just fired Tom Thibodeau. Tyrese Halliburton is out for the entire season. Jason Tatum with the Celtics is going to miss a majority of the regular season.
Whole thing.
Though,
Let's call it whole thing. He's not playing this year.
Exactly. You're right. He's gone. The Bucks said goodbye to Damian Lillard. The East is more wide open than it has ever been.
Are never going to happen, no matter what.
The Sixers are the Sixers.
Overrated general manager in the history of the position. You got the Miami Heat completely in retreat from their whole culture situation. The best team in the East is. We're waiting.
We're waiting. I mean, again, it's probably still I still want to say Giannis. I still want to give I still want to say Milwaukee out loud to at least be on the record with that. Probably because the East used to run not so long ago through Milwaukee, Boston. And so it's probably close to that. We never saw them at peak Lillard and Giannis together. So I don't want to say that tearing that up necessarily tears away what they've done, but they no longer have that coaching staff. It is a lot different. And Giannis hasn't been back on that pedestal since. So first of all, for the Sixers, what is your excuse now? The East is so... If the Sixers with Paul George and Embiid can't compete this coming season, I don't know what is going on there. So thank you. And again, welcome to the NBA Finals in the second round of the playoffs, Sixers. I'm sure that's where you will fizzle out as you always do. But for LeBron, think about it, Damon. Really, the path to the finals in the East is right there. I mean, the Knicks could the Knicks be there? Sure. But a team with LeBron in the East to take on the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, even if you want to say that's who it's going to be, LeBron's the favorite right now. He's the favorite right now. What, he's not better than Orlando?
Right.
I'm sorry.
Orlando will be better. Atlanta will be better.
Sure.
Everyone needs to hold their breath on both those teams because they're not about to be an NBA champion. Maybe they get in line to it in the future. But again, E. Scott Burns says Indiana, Tyrese Halliburton's gone. Miles Turner's gone. Good luck.
And maybe so that's maybe the exciting one. Indiana, LeBron. I mean, okay. All right. Maybe one of these teams that really did just contend there, Boston without Tatum. Okay. LeBron. I mean, LeBron Celtics seems crazy, but I've seen crazy things in this league, right? We've seen Shaq as a Celtic. Exactly. Shaq was a Celtic. That's all we need to say.
Shaq wasn't still one of the 10 best players in the league, which LeBron James still is, even at his advanced age. That guy still is, on a bad night, 18-7-7.
And by the way, for those that are out there playing basketball, take care of your Achilles. Think about what this league was. Think about what the NBA playoffs just were. Tatum, Achilles, gone. Lillard, Achilles, gone. NBA Finals Game 7, Halliburton, Achilles, gone. Watch out. That's an important ligament.
Look out, everybody. Are you ready for a little history? It's time for Today in History, but we will ask you one last time to lean in, hit that thumbs up button, do it on both channels if you would, please, right here, Damon Bruce Plus, Thinking Out Loud with Siciliano and Sam. Like it over there. And I tell you what, Sammy, you need to book Andrew Siciliano in the next couple weeks here. He's going to join us.
Check out his Instagram right now. He is in Japan and enjoying more fish than anyone ever has. Andrew was having an amazing time. He was hiking in Mount Fiji. I mean, this guy has an incredible life. Yeah.
Tell him to get an egg salad sandwich from Lawson's. He'll be happier than I think with maybe anything else. Okay, here we are today in history. As always, we begin with happy birthdays. Happy birthday to Sofia Vergara, right?
Oh, wow.
52 years old. I just saw her laying on some raft in Ibiza. She got it, man. She still got it.
Always had it. Beauty is one of those things that is fairly timeless and good for Sofia Vergara. Wow. Just an excellent, nice, Damon. Just to put that thought out of all of our heads.
We haven't seen her in a while, but
nope.
Happy birthday to Jessica Simpson. She's 44 years old now. Jessica Simpson. I wonder what she's up to. She was right in the middle of the pop star radar and then disappeared, almost never to be seen again.
You're right. I mean, her and Romo, that was exciting.
That was the thing.
Romo and her to Cabo and that's my quarterback TO that season. I mean, that was pretty special to remember that.
Happy birthday to one of the worst dudes just to play in the NFL, Antonio Brown, 36 years old today. I don't know what he'll be doing, but I'm sure someone's feelings will be hurt at the end of it.
By the way, quickly on AB, interesting follow on social media if you still want to do that. He's just an interesting dude, but
he's all over the place.
Is there a career that was just headed to the Hall of Fame that was more just dropped out of the sky than Antonio Brown. And derailed, I mean, self-inflicted wounds here, right? But I mean, Antonio Brown was he was paired up with Brady at one point. I mean, even if you take the prime Pittsburgh years out of it, he still was finding himself back on track. I mean, to be paired with Brady and to fuck that up with an opportunity to sort of have that Randy Moss resurgent season with Brady, same path too, right? Coming from the Raiders and then having Brady, I just, wow, what an opportunity missed.
Couple guys who wear the 49ers uniform. One wore it, one still does. Happy birthday to Roger Craig, who is 65 years old today. Roger Craig should be in the Hall of Fame. It is a joke that he isn't. Happy birthday to Jawan Jennings. He's 28 years old today, and he's got a huge year coming up. And if he plays really well, look out for those 49ers once again. All right. I think we both enjoy a smooth ride down the street. Well, that was basically given birth today in 1892. The very first concrete paved street in America happened. It was Court Avenue around Logan County Courthouse in Bellefonte, Ohio.
If you ever want to appreciate a paved street, you know when they say uneven gravel or uneven road, you see that sign, and then you drive on that road, and it's because they've sort of taken the cheese grater to the road and they've gotten all the old asphalt up, and it's right before they lay the new asphalt. What does that feel like on your car as you're jittering over the gravel there as you're driving and realizing it, and then the next day when you go, it's smooth with the new pavement? Just remind yourself how beautiful that experience is in comparison.
Thank you, Concrete. You've done a lot for us, and we don't really give you your due ever.
Nailing it.
Let's see. Hot day in 1913. Today in 1913 in Death Valley, California, temperature reached 134 degrees, the highest temperature recorded in the United States. It feels like we're going to work hard to beat that real soon. Today in 1938, Howard Hughes set a record by completing a 91-hour airplane flight around the world. 1938. Would you be comfortable getting on an airplane from here to Sacramento, much less like around the world over oceans in 1938? Howard Hughes, I don't know how big his schwanz was, but he had balls, that's for sure.
Big balls. Do yourself a favor. Watch The Aviator. For those that like Leonardo DiCaprio or are undecided who would be, but Leonardo DiCaprio, The Aviator, a fantastic performance.
Maybe his best work. Maybe this guy's life when he was a kid, that was really good too.
Basketball Diaries. Also for anyone who's on the fence about Leo, Gilbert Grape. Watch him as the little brother in Gilbert Grape.
He was more believable, Leonardo DiCaprio was, as a heroin addict than he was a basketball star.
Yes, we'll take that, and he did both for us. So thank you very much.
Today in 1962, a satellite called Telstar 1, which launched television signals and telephone conversations across the Atlantic Ocean, happened today in 1962. Satellite communication as we know it, born today. And without it, where would we be today? I mean, that was big. I remember my dad talking about Telstar 1 as if that was his generation's Sputnik. He really cared about that, and he was in the satellite industry, so that's why.
Think about how incredible that moment was. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? And the other side says yes, and it's the first time that has actually happened. And think about what we all do now, complaining about our cell phones not being clear enough. I mean, imagine where the technology has gone.
I mean, if something doesn't load instantly, if you have to wait 2 heartbeats for something to load on your phone, you're pissed. You are pissed.
As Louis C.K. says, give it a second. It's going to space.
Yes. Today in 1965, the Rolling Stones topped the U.S. charts for the first time ever with a little song that's called I Can't Get No Satisfaction. You can listen to it today. It still holds water. Trust us. Today, in 1973, the Bahamas gained independence from Britain with the Commonwealth. So, yeah, man, happy birthday, Bahamas.
Get there, by the way. If you haven't checked out the Bahamas at all in your life, that's a fantastic destination.
By the way, Bahamas. I'll take your word. How about this? I have yet to hear the negative review of the Bahamas.
You're absolutely right.
Finally, here we go with the single most important thing that ever happened. Forget the Rolling Stones, forget concrete, forget the satellite, forget all the birthdays we told you about, forget the temperature in California. today in 1987, Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, came out.
It's so funny. Revenge of the Nerds has come up now at least 3 times with you and I on Thursdays.
Yes.
It's so worthwhile. And I don't know that it holds water. There's a lot. There is a discomfort to watching Revenge of the Nerds now, right? There are parts of it where you think, okay, I know I was laughing hysterically, and now am I allowed to anymore?
The answer is yes. The answer, funny is funny is funny is funny. If some people get hurt along the path of was that funny, I'm good. I'm cool with. I don't care. Make me laugh. Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise.
So beautiful.
Still kind of makes me laugh. It really does. It's fantastic. It's really
so true. Damon, do me a favor. Can you share Leslie Tipple's comment there about Jessica Simpson? We have an update. Niner fans should remember. Look at that.
Former Niner Eric Johnson. Did they get to? I thought that recently. They were married still. Recently divorced. There you go.
So there we go. So she's.
By the way, E. Scott Burns saying Courtney Thorne Smith in that one. Yes, she is.
Yeah.
She is in that one. And we thank her for all she's done for all of us.
Yes, thank you.
During, libido developing phases of life. Thank you very, very much to everyone who tuned in today. We so appreciate you spending your precious time with us. You can spend it anywhere. The fact that you spend it with us means a lot to us. Thank you very, very much. Again, eat at Ike's, drink at Dubliner West Portal. Are we going to get Aunt Marlene and
we're gonna you know what please yes we will. We're gonna get Stata's Hamantash, Stata's Kitchen. We're gonna get Aunt Marlene with a website that's actually worthy of sharing here, so that everyone can just go and buy her amazing baked goods, because they are delicious, best I've ever had. So please, yes, Aunt Marlene, who does listen, we will get her on that. And we will also find a way to share the photo of Jason Pierre-Paul's hand. Every time he's in the news, Damon and I talk about it, whether it's worth it or not. It was sort of the anniversary, 4th of July, of what happened. I just want to remind everyone.
Look at that.
We all survived 4th of July without this happening to our hand. For those that are listening, I just want to say that Damon is sharing on the screen right now. This is the photo of Jason Pierre-Paul months after he blew his hand apart with a firework.
This is better photo.
This is the after. So he sat down with Jay Glazer, and he was talking about his comeback with the Giants at that point. Think about this, 2 things. Number one, like Damon said, this is the after. This is the doctor unveiling all of the gauze and saying, congratulations, we made your hand look like this. It looks like brownie batter, right? It looks like mixed brownie batter is what his hand looks like.
The only thing I can tell you is that he's jerking lefty now, for sure.
That's for sure. And think about this, Damon, even more impressive, he won a Super Bowl with the Bucs after this photo.
Yeah,
he was dominant on that Bucs team. In fact, he was a major part of it. The only part he had an issue with was holding the microphone at the celebration, at the parade after they won it. That's it.
Gotta go lefty. Let me ask you this: what's bigger, that dominant nub or Devin Booker?
That's okay. You're right, and it's really a question of girth, and I don't know for sure. One day we will get the metrics on that. Just like I talked about quarterback rating, Devin Booker wins a rating that is even more impressive than all of that.
It's the Milton Berle rating. If you only pull out enough to win. And on that note, we say thank you so much for watching. Please do remember that sports don't build character; they reveal it. And like that, just in time, if you don't mind me saying, they're gone.